Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Chron-versations. Hi guys, how you doing?
Good.
Doing well.
Happy belated St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
As always, I am your host Miranda Manier, news editor for the Chronicle, and I am here today with
Micha Thurston. I'm the advertising manager for the Chronicle.
And I'm Mike Rundle. I'm a senior photo editor.
Heck yeah. All right, guys. Well, I don't know, Micah, you want to get us started
No.
today? Why not? I just like shaking it out.
I went first last time.
You did,
Oh, that's true.
that's
Okay.
Me first?
Actually, no. We're not going to make Mike go first.
Man,
We're going to stick you right in the middle.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I was not prepared today. I apologize.
That's all right. Because I have something I'm pretty excited to talk about. So, last week it was announced that Netflix was canceling the show One Day at a Time, which is a show about a Latinx family. It's really good representation, and it's something that you don't see on TV a lot. And a lot of people were pretty upset about it, mostly because of this representation going away. And so people on Twitter are kind of getting up in arms about it. They're saying Netflix just spent in the last couple months $100 million to keep Friends on its platform. But they're canceling this show because they're saying that it doesn't have enough viewership.
Never mind.
What? No, please.
I was going to say Friends. You mean white living single?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean,
But it's true.
yeah.
Exactly. That's kind of the point. They're keeping this show that is very dated and has a lot of kind of low-key racist and homophobic remarks in it. And they're spending millions of dollars for that, but won't keep this really good example of representation. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I think it's a really interesting point to consider, weighing the value of, a show that is getting, financial feedback, which is hard with Netflix because it's not like they're getting advertisers. So it's just, people are watching it and they're assuming that that means that people might subscribe to Netflix so they can continue to watch it. Or, just keeping something that might not be very, financially successful because it has kind of, an ethical value, I guess. I don't know if ethical is really the right word, but a social value, I think. So I don't know. I mean, I was looking at a Variety article from January, and it was comparing Netflix's funding for original content. And since 2017, it has gone up 6 million. It was at 8.9 billion, excuse me. It was 8.9 billion in 2017, and in 2019 their funding for original content is $15 billion. And if you look at original content on Netflix's homepage, you see a lot of stuff that you don't hear about. People aren't watching most of Netflix's original content. And shows like One Day at a Time get a lot of critical acclaim. It was known as what is a critical darling. So people loved the show even if a lot of people weren't watching it. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm wondering what do you guys think a distributor should do if a show is really well loved and might have social cultural value, but it's not necessarily making a lot of financial sense for them to keep funding it?
I feel like it comes down to kind of what the core values of Netflix would be, and obviously when it gets to the point of this multi-billion-dollar company, it's probably not going to end up well historically.
Right.
Profit.
Right.
Profit.
Exactly. So if they're gonna retain more people by buying Friends, then if it's all about the bottom line, then that's probably the route that they would go. I think at this point, there's a certain amount of social responsibility that a platform as big as Netflix should take to kind of push, inclusive shows and inclusive content, just for the fact that you said that it is representation that is often not there, especially in shows like Friends. But yeah, I think it kind of just goes back to what Netflix is really committed to, I guess, in a certain sense. And that's kind of speaking in broader terms, but I don't know. That's kind of the first thing that comes to my mind as far as why they would necessarily push one show over the other.
Mm-hmm.
And in profit,
What do you think, Micah?
I think the most frustrating thing about Netflix is just how their main goal is to push out it seems like their main goal is to push out as many shows as possible, and no one has ever understood why they do that.
Yeah.
Because obviously if you're releasing dozens of new shows essentially every single day, like I feel like there's a new Netflix original every single day.
Yeah.
Obviously they're all not going to get the same like playground, because if you're watching a show, you're going to watch that show, you're not going to jump to the next. So it's like, why not give one Netflix show a chance to actually get those views and then see how it goes and then maybe make a next show? But I don't know, it's really frustrating because there are shows that I've liked as well that don't get renewed for even a second season, and it's like you literally didn't give this show a chance whatsoever. Despite the fact that it was really good. And yeah, I think that has a lot to do with the fact that they just push out so many different shows and movies all the time. And it's like, just relax, slow down. Like, I don't understand why they do that. I don't think anybody does.
I totally agree.
Quality or quantity over quality.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it's like, why would you want that?
Yeah. I was reading an article about this from, I think, like last April or something. And it was this guy talking, like, comparing Netflix's model to HBO's. Because HBO has, like, pretty limited original content, but they always, like, it's always very quality. Like, they put a lot of effort into, like, the writing and the production value. Mm-hmm. And Netflix does seem to have this, like, baffling business model where they're just making, ultimately, like, garbage and then not marketing any of it. Mm-hmm. So, like, so much of it just goes between the cracks, and then they market, like, 5 shows.
Right.
Like, they market movies like Will Smith's Bright, which was, like, not good.
I forgot about that one, yeah.
Yeah, like, it wasn't good. A lot of people said it was very weird, and, like, because it was. But, like, I don't understand why they choose to market something like that over something like One Day at a Time, which is getting, like, critical acclaim. Mm-hmm. Because if they had decided, like, oh, this is having, a social and cultural impact, and, like, we should have a responsibility to, like, keep funding it, and we could choose to do that by marketing it, I feel. Like, if they were actually really pushing that show, I think it would have gotten better viewership, and they probably would have had a better reason to keep it. But because they choose to market their weird original content, like their strange sci-fi movies, and like their, like, I don't know, I just don't understand.
I know, they release so many sci-fi movies. Like, how many movies about aliens and the world ending can you make?
Right?
I mean, honestly.
And all of it is, like you said, like, not good. Like, I think a couple of times my girlfriend and I will just, like, sit down and watch a few Netflix movies that are, like, we know are going to be bad, but we watch. It's like watching, like, Hallmark movies around Christmas.
Are they
it's
becoming
like,
the new Lifetime, where there's a new Lifetime movie every day, and they're all trash?
Yeah.
Please don't do that, Netflix. Like, you're killing yourself here.
And I kind of think they're already there. Like, I truly don't understand why they have this $15 billion budget for original content if they're just going to try to make as many shows as possible instead of a few good shows.
Right.
Like, I wonder what that is.
Like, I can't wrap my mind around it.
Yeah, like, are they just trying to, like, populate their platform? Like, are they losing things and they're trying to just, like, make it look like they're not losing things? Like, there's more on there. Like, it makes you think about a lot of different factors that could, like...
Netflix is so interesting because, like, okay, I don't have the number in front of me, but I know that Netflix is, like, very much in debt. Like, their shareholders are, like, pretty upset with them consistently. And... so I think that, like, maybe it's their constant desperate ploy to just try and get, like, whatever market they can. Because a lot of their shows, they also, like, so they have a lot of those, like, weird B movies, and then they also have, like, weird children's shows that no one really watches. And they have, like, I don't know. They also have, like, a lot of, like, Korean dramas and stuff, and they're, like, marketing into, like, other foreign, like, films and shows. And I think it's really just they're trying to appeal to as many people as possible.
Well, I think in terms of, like, marketing different, like, for K-pop.
Yeah.
Not K-pop, sorry. Korean films. Remember that thing that came out about how they were only marketing, like they would change the cover photo depending on your race or what they assumed your race to be. That might have something to do with, you know, what people are seeing as well, because I've never seen the One Day at a Time thing. I've never even heard of it until now. and that might have something to do with what shows they're marketing to me on my Netflix. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't really think about that till now.
Like, that's the other thing about Netflix. They are shrouded in secrecy because they do not have the demand that, like, network and cable has to release viewership numbers. So we don't know how many people are actually watching any given Netflix show or movie. Like, it's all, like, everything they do is behind closed doors. And, like, they just choose to release information. Like, when Bird Box was a big thing, they said that it had, like, I don't know, like, some million number of views in the first weekend it was out. And that's
also not
unverified.
that good of a movie.
Yeah, also not a good movie. But, like, that's unverified. We have no way of actually knowing if that's true. They could just say that. And, like, there wouldn't really be any legal recourse anyone could take. They could just say it.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. It's really interesting. And someone else had a really good point that, like, Netflix chooses to fund shows like 13 Reasons Why, which there have been, like, connections between children, like, self-harming and, like, doing really terrible things to themselves because they were triggered or, like, somehow the show was glorifying certain actions. And Netflix chooses to continue to fund that because they know people watch it out of, like, a kind of morbid curiosity.
That's so disturbing to me.
That's unethical. Like, I really believe that is unethical. And so I guess I'm not surprised that they are choosing not to, like, push or try to save one day at a time. But, like, man, it's so interesting and pretty messed up.
I just want to, like, the thing that goes, like, going back to, like, the viewership numbers and things like that, like, I'm a big fan of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So, like, when Fox canceled that and, like, the whole social media world, like, came to the rescue, essentially. Like, I feel like with One Day at a Time, like, I, like, didn't really know that much about it, and, like, I hadn't really seen it on my Netflix type of thing. Like, I didn't really know. But with all of, like, the social, like uproar about it, like, I feel like I'm now more likely to watch that. Like, I'm more interested in it.
Exactly.
So, like the idea of, like, going to cancel it and then, like, basically making, like, earned media PR from the idea of canceling it, like, could just automatically lead to more viewership, like, whether that was their intention or not. So, like,
it's a really good point.
I don't know if whether it'd be a thing, another, like, Brooklyn Nine-Nine thing where
like NBC picks it up or
right
something.
Another major network picks it up, or Netflix is, like, somehow has a change of
guess
heart
we'll
where they're
save
like,
it.
I guess we might as well save this because there's
It's
so
a
much
great
support.
point.
But
Yeah, it's so interesting because Brooklyn Nine-Nine does have better numbers on NBC than it ever did on Fox.
Yeah, so
interesting. All right, Mike. Well, what do you want to talk about?
Well, so I recently purchased my first tickets to an official music festival. And it's called Hinterland. It's in St. Charles, Iowa, and it's like Casey Musgraves, Brandi Carlile, Hozier,
Oh my God.
Maggie Rogers,
That's a really
etc.
good lineup.
I do not know any of those names except for Hozier.
Yeah. So, like, that was the thing that, like, spurred myself and, like, to buying these tickets was, like, the fact that the line was amazing, because typically I'm not one to spend, like, a couple $100 on festival tickets.
Sure.
And I know we kind of talked about this beforehand, but neither of you have been to a festival, like an official one, and I haven't either. So I kind of want to just bring up the idea of, like, why haven't we been to one yet?
Yeah.
Like, is it just, like, cost prohibitive, or is it, like, because every year I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna go to Lala, like, Paul McCartney is headlining, like, I can't miss it, and then I just don't, and I'm like, I can't, and I think that,
same,
like,
wow,
it comes down to it, like, I can't afford to spend this much money. But, like, I saw something that was like, you think about it, it's like, you have this many artists, you spend like $200 on a ticket, like, it averages out to like $2.50 per artist.
That's a lot.
So if you think about it that way, it's like, I don't know, it's just like an interesting thing. It's like, we always drive by Lollapalooza being at Columbia, and this festival actually is the same weekend as Lolla, I think, this year. So, like, obviously I won't be able to make that, but I don't know. I just think, like, why do we think it's been, and because a lot of times it's like, oh my gosh, like, I want to go to this music festival for, like, I don't know, like, Elite Daily articles, like, I want to go to this festival because, like, it changed my life, and, like, that type of thing. And
people
it's like,
really do say that.
Like, I don't know how much I believe that.
Okay, so actually, this is kind of interesting. My roommate, shout out Montana Tabby White, she is a live and performing arts management major here at Columbia, and her dream is to have a music festival. That's like all she wants to do with her life. And she has stories of like she went to like Electric Forest in high school and said that it was like very influential for her, and like she sees like some kind of like art form in it. So I don't know. Like I think that that's interesting and like an aspect of it that I would never think about ever.
Just like building the experience.
Yeah, exactly.
So like on the production side,
Right.
it's like my dream is to have this festival just to be able to like put it on.
Right.
Which I feel like that would be cool, like to be able to put something like that together. Like it's essentially just like a giant experiential marketing campaign.
It's
like,
so interesting to me though, because when I think about music festivals, like they all look the same in my head. Like I don't think of them as being like unique experiences. I think that they would all be like 16-year-olds like going to their first concerts and like
right.
I don't know. Like it just doesn't. I think that's always been the thing for me because there have been so many festivals that I've really wanted to go to when I've seen a lineup. Like there's one, it's called like Mopop or something in Detroit.
Yeah.
And I just saw the lineup for that and I was like, oh, that looks really good. Like Lizzo's going to be there. Like I want to see that. But then I was like, it feels like such a thing. Like it's such an ordeal. I have to commit to that for a whole weekend. I have to like be around enormous crowds for like 48 hours. Like it sounds like such a thing that I'm not terribly interested in.
Such a daunting task. Yeah.
Exactly. It's much more of a commitment than just going to a concert, I think. So that is less appealing to me somehow.
Yeah. Like you're when you're talking about like they all look the same. Like when I think of music festival, I think of like giant crowd, extremely muddy, everyone's really drunk. And
food
like,
is overpriced.
Food is
I can't bring my own water.
So, yeah, exactly. It's like $5 for a bottle of water. So
That
like,
just sounds gross.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound enjoyable.
yeah, like that's what I was thinking too. Like I don't like Lollapalooza. Like okay, I might like stand outside the fence and listen. But like I don't know. Like I'll go inside and watch. Like I don't know. I just can't.
I agree, and I like this is. Burning Man is a different beast, but like Burning Man is the most unique festival experience that I can think of. Like everything else just seems like it would have the same vibe.
Yeah.
No matter what the lineup is, I feel like it would just feel the same. And I don't know.
Yeah,
That's not exciting to me.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the one thing this is not like a promotion for this festival at all, like in any means, but like this hinterland that we're going to is that like the thing that drew me about it was like a lot of the like images that you would see from the festival, like they had a lot of like families there, so it was like, and us also St. Charles, Iowa has like I think like 2,000 people or less like in the town. I think it's like a lot less actually. It might be hundreds, but it's outside of like Des Moines area, and like they have like a kids zone, and then like there's kids like hanging out with like their parents and like these hammocks, and like it seems just like very like chilled out and laid back, which, and then also like a lot of the acts are very like acoustic based. So I'm like,
that sounds nice.
Like that sounds a little bit better than me like going to like what like some like Miami, they have like an EDM fest or something like that, and where everyone's just like freaking out the whole time.
That sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
And like I think there are certain, like I know that now that I think about it, isn't like Bonnaroo's whole thing is that everyone camps or something.
Yeah.
And like that's if you have something like that, I think that is a way to make me more interested if it has like some kind of like niche or like quirk to it. But in general, just the idea of a music festival, I just have a very specific picture in my head and I can't like deviate from that. I can't picture like that sounds different, but for the most part they all sound the same.
Yeah. Michael, what would be like the one thing that would get you to come to a music festival?
I think for me, the thing that's like that I haven't wanted to go to one is just like the culture of it. Because like when I think about a music festival, it doesn't really like, it's not really about the music. I feel like it's more about like the experience. Like you said, like it's an experiential thing. It's about like the outfits you wear and the makeup you do and the drugs you do and the drinks you drink and the Instagram pictures you get and stuff like that. And yeah, that's just not really my thing. I'm also very introverted, so I'm like being around that many people all the time sounds awful, as well as the fact like muddy, like I'm like kind of a germaphobe, so that just sounds disgusting. Like being sweaty and dirty for 3 days straight. No, thank you. And then I guess the only festival that I would ever go to is there's one called like Afropunk or something like that.
Oh, sure.
Something like that. I think you guys know for obvious reasons why. But other than that, I've just never really been interested in any of them.
Yeah.
That's just not my thing.
I mean, that's totally rational because, like, obviously none of us have ever been interested enough to go. And I guess,
and also the price tag. I think that, like, you were right.
That
I don't,
too.
like, if it was like $50, that would be different.
Right.
That's like, you know,
I mean, the tickets that so we got this. So this festival that we're going to is only in its like 5th year, I think. So like this might be different, but so all of those artists, and it's a 3-day thing, and it was you could buy a general admission pass for 3 days, and it was like $150.
That's not bad.
So like that's not bad at all
for that lineup,
like
especially.
if you're thinking like if you're gonna pay to see like if like Casey Musgraves were to come to Chicago, you'd be paying like
probably half
minimum
of that.
$70 a ticket to like just to go see her.
So
in,
if you're seeing
show,
like
so,
her and like
so like your Grammy winners, like it's I don't know. I'm just really excited for this one, and I think that's like the first one that, given all of the variables that we've talked about, like I think that's the first time.
I will say I almost went to Pitchfork last year just because Lauryn Hill was going, but then she was like 2 hours late for her set, so I was like, I'm glad I didn't go.
See,
classic Lauryn Hill.
I almost went to Pitchfork last year. No, Lala. I almost got a 1-day pass to Lala because Carly Rae Jepsen was supposed to play, but then she had an after show, so I just went to the after show.
Oh, cool.
Smart.
So just get after show tickets, guys. Don't go to real festivals.
That's the lesson of this podcast. Just get after show tickets.
Anyway, now that we've decided on that, Micah, what do you want to talk about?
Woo! My topic feels kind of deeper, but it's not really. I want to talk about New Zealand. I don't want to talk about the actual attacks or anything like that, just kind of the media coverage that's happened after it. So all of us have heard of Egg Boy, right?
Yes.
You guys have heard of Egg Boy? Yeah. So I went on Twitter this morning, and that was the first thing that popped up when I refreshed my feed. And then I went to the entertainment section, the news section, and the fun section, and everything was about Egg Boy.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, we get it. This kid, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, following the terroristic attacks on the mosque in New Zealand, an Australian senator, I can't remember his name, something Anning, essentially said that the attacks had to do with people's fear of Muslims. So basically victim blaming. And after that, a teenage boy went up to the senator and like smashed an egg on his head. And then the most disturbing part to me was the fact that the senator then punched him in the face twice. And then like 4 people tackled the kid, and then the kid was arrested. And it's like, that kid was 17. Like, regardless of your opinion on him egging the senator, you know, he just assaulted a minor on TV. That was very interesting to me. And then the kid was arrested. But anyway, so after that, people made a GoFundMe for the kid. He's been trending all over Twitter and stuff like that. He's become a meme as well. And then luckily, though, he's donating the funds from his GoFundMe to the victims of the attacks, the survivors of the attacks. So that was nice.
That is nice.
But I think that one person that a lot of people haven't heard about is the man that actually like stopped the shooter, the active shooter at the mosque. His name was Abdul Aziz, and he was a member of the mosque as well as a father of 4, and they were all present when the shooter was there. The shooter killed 49 people, and he would have killed a lot more if Abdul Aziz hadn't stopped the man. But the thing is that I've only seen one article about Abdul Aziz. One article.
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering, like, what is a hero to people?
That's a really good question.
What is how low are our standards that we would make this kid, this Egg Boy kid, a national sensation? and no one has heard anything about the man that was at the scene of the crime.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think? I just talked a lot.
I mean, I think right off the bat, the first thing that comes to my mind is just like what people are more like liable to latch on to. And I mean, it's kind of sad that like immediately like just the idea that like this man kind of just goes unnoticed from in the face of like this kid that like had an act of rebellion against a politician, like and I think it just kind of goes back to like just meme culture in general, and people just being like, oh, this is hilarious, like I'm more liable to share this than something that's like actually like more sentimental and more like heartfelt, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that there's something to be said about what the 24-hour news cycle and like constant access to social media has done to how we interact with like news like that. And I think that like Egg Boy, I don't know his name.
I don't either.
I think that like first there was a video, so I think that people that was like easily memeable, and it was a way for people to make light of some aspect of the situation, because it was incredibly heartbreaking. So it was a way to like make it almost funny, or like I think it's also easier for people to relate to him than to relate to Abdul, because I do not know if I would be able to stop an active shooter if that was a situation that was happening. But I might throw an egg at a senator. Like, I don't know, like, that it feels like a more accessible thing. Like, oh, this guy, like, he's just like us. Whereas, like, Abdul, I think, is a real hero. Like, that is, like, a thing that, like, most people could not do. So it feels like a less accessible person to talk about or share, I guess. I don't know. And it's also, I think it does feel less shareable, which, like, I don't think is right, but it almost feels like when you just share the Egg Boy thing, you're not reminding people of what happened, really. You're just reminding people, like, oh, like, politicians suck or whatever. Whereas, like, if you're sharing the story of Abdul, it's like, this is, like, here's the heavy thing that happened.
Right.
Like, this guy did this really real thing when this horrible incident was occurring. Like,
I think that has to do with what Mike said about the meme culture and how everything needs to be comedic and everything needs to be a joke, and how we deal with those types of things. I think that probably explains it to a T.
What do you guys think about that? Like, us trying to make light of something like that?
I don't know. I mean, that reminds me of like just everything being like a coping mechanism for, like, you know, like, because in general, like, our generation specifically has become so like desensitized to like everything. So I think
that's why, though, we've become like, when we make a joke about it, it's like we're allowing ourselves to be complacent and not like deal with the seriousness of the situation and how
not to get like too political on the culture podcast, but like the fact that New Zealand is already, I think like this morning they like confirmed that they were like changing their gun laws. Like,
I think they're banning like semi-automatic.
Right. Like, and it's like
that.
Right. That's just the thing that like is so incredible to me. That's like, oh, you can just do that. Like, and
you can make changes.
Right. Like, I don't know, like, complacency and like the fact that we're not like, because for me sometimes it gets to a point where I'm like, I don't know like what else to do to like try to help a situation like politically. Like, it's gotten to a point for me sometimes where I'm like, everything is like just built against us, like us meaning like kind of our generation, and like especially like the new, like the tax bill or anything, like education, like loan forgiveness being cut and like things like that. Like, it gets to a point of like I almost feel like hopeless, to like, for lack of a better term, but and then like maybe a way to cope with that, a way to deal with that is through like this meme culture.
We even make jokes about that too, like, LOL, I'm so in debt.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Yeah,
like,
that's not funny.
Right,
Our government needs to help us out with that.
Yeah.
There's no reason why college students should be thousands of dollars in debt. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
I see people talk about like media that show examples of millennials, and they're like, no media has ever really captured like the grim like nihilism that really sums up our generation, because we all have like, I think, a very like dark, cutting sense of humor, because it's like, well, this all sucks and there's nothing we can do about it. Like, I think we all, like, in general, I think that's an attitude that our generation has. And so I think that like spreading around things like Egg Boy is just an example of that. It's like, here's this ridiculous thing that happened like on the periphery of this horrible event. Like, this is just what the world is.
Right.
the word egg boy just reminds me of that scene from It, where he's have you seen it? Where he's like chasing him through the library and he goes, egg boy.
Oh my God.
Okay,
Right.
sorry.
It was honestly a hilarious movie. That was not a horror movie. It was just a comedy. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think that like it's just us trying to grasp onto that sliver of humor. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think it's okay for us to do that personally. But I think that it is a hard truth that we are more likely to do that than to acknowledge someone like Abdul's actions.
But don't get us wrong, like, he definitely deserves recognition for what he did, because it's like we said, the truly heroic thing in that situation.
Yeah.
So.
But Egg Boy, you're okay too. Anyway, guys, let's end things on a slightly happier note.
Yeah.
What are your happy things for
Please.
this week?
Who wants to start?
I can start. So J.K. Rowling came out and said that Dumbledore and Grindelwald had a vigorously sexual
Yeah, they did.
relationship.
Okay, wait.
Yeah,
Can I just interject? Okay, remind me again. It's been a while. Who is Grindelwald?
Grindelwald?
He was the evil dark wizard before Voldemort that Dumbledore like was friends with and then had to stop.
Okay, I don't.
But also
I don't
more than
recall.
friends, apparently.
I don't recall. No,
Yeah.
I'm out. Just strike me out of this conversation.
But that's not the thing that like made me happy. It was because that's weird. It was the memes that came out afterwards. They were just so funny. Of like just
There were so many good ones.
I love Harry Potter, but just the mocking of how J.K. Rowling just adds so many different dimensions that don't need to be there.
Yeah, she's editorialized the entire plot.
One of my favorite tweets was by Nate McDermott. He said, "Nobody, J.K. Rowling, Hogwarts was super diverse, exceptionally gay, extremely homoerotic, and there were a ton of Black and Jewish kids too. I just didn't write about any of them, but they were there. Trust me."
Oh my god.
Yikes.
And I was like, accurate.
I have smiled every time I've seen one of those memes. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just needs to write another book, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Just
like
we all
that's what
need
she
some
wants to do,
closure.
clearly.
Yeah, we need it.
Yeah. My happy thing is that Lily Singh, aka I Superwoman I from YouTube, just took over, or is going to take over next fall, Carson Daly's late night talk show slot on NBC. So she will be right along there with Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers. And she is a bisexual Indian-Canadian woman. She is like dope as hell. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
So that was great and made me super happy because she's going to be the first female and queer and person of color host of a late night talk show on like a major network.
Nice.
So go Lily Singh. Yeah.
Progress.
Yeah. We're getting there.
Getting there.
Mike?
My happy thing is that I saw on Twitter this morning that so it was St. Patrick's Day yesterday, and on Saturday was the dyeing of the Chicago River, and some people on Twitter are using it as a green screen because it was so green.
That's so good.
So, like, for example, I don't know if this is where it originated, but the account that I saw it from was at Two Claws Media, and like it was just like an aerial shot of the river being like really green, and he like used all these effects, so like now it looks like, oh, there's like spaceships flying under these boats, and like it looks like lava, and they're all falling down into the lava.
love that.
That's hilarious.
That's really pure.
It was really cool.
What a
If there's
wholesome
anything
meme.
that good that can come out of dyeing our river green,
Yep.
it's
It's
Green
a giant
screens.
green screen.
It's not going to be the pollutions.
Right.
Oh, that's hilarious. No, I'm sure it's not totally polluted. Anyway, well, thank you all so much for listening. I hope you've learned to go to after shows and
Yes.
support people who stop active shooters, I guess. Two ends of a different pole. I don't know, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Special thanks to WCRX, Chicago's Underground, and we will see you all again in 2 weeks.